truly want to build an amazing physique and you want to work on your quality of life and longevity, working on the basics like classic overhead pull-ups or even classic push variations is more than enough to master your full body strength, control, and even your mobility. If you're ready, let's go and have some fun. And number one will be hanging. And when it comes to hanging, we have to differentiate between a passive hang for decompression or an active hang for building static strength. Get yourself into this passive hanging position. This will start decompressing every single joint in your entire body, going down your entire spine and loosening up even our hips and our knees, meaning it's an absurdly effective exercise for both stretching and decompressing. It'll help out a lot of people who struggle, for instance, with frozen shoulder or shoulder impingement. As for the active hang, we will start in the opposite, in a totally decompressive passive hang. Now from here, we're gonna start pulling our shoulder blades down into scapular depression, pulling them together into scapular adduction, and we're gonna bend the tiniest bit in our arms as well. We wanna build massive static strength by just holding for longer and longer periods of time. I would suggest working up until you can hold on for a complete minute. And the second really important variation for the active hang, an active hollow body hold where we are flexing our entire anterior chain to strengthen our core in conjunction with our arm, hip flexor, and basically leg musculature arm support. And you can start out very easy by just keeping your arms fully extended and holding as long as you can this sort of plank position, which will be the foundation for all kinds of more advanced calisthenics exercises like hollow body holds and all kinds of levers. Now, after being able to hold at the very least a complete minute with your arms fully extended, you can add more resistance by elevating your lower body. You can use a box or whatever you have, and after that we're gonna start bending in our hips to put more and more and more of our body weight onto our arms. Same goes for extended arm support on the dip bar, which is fixed, meaning you don't actually have to go through a lot of stabilization. Just keep your arms extended and your shoulders lengthened. And of course, extended arm support on the gymnastic rings or on TRX bands. We have a lot of stabilization from our shoulders and we need to be able to fully support our entire body weight. To working this stuff in a handstand position. Now be sure to go into scapular elevation and lengthen your arms as much as you can and hold once again until you can go for 60 seconds. And if you want to add even more arm support, you can open up and start swaying from one side to the other, putting more and more pressure on one arm before switching to the other side. And if you want to advance even more, now we can move sideways and go for classic shoulder touches and switch it up from one side to the other. Now you've basically built the entire foundation you will require for being able to do handstands, dips, or more advanced ring exercises. This moves us to the arm bending categories, and we will separate that into two chapters, starting with the push exercises. Basically cover our entire anterior chain with a little bit of our posterior chain added in our upper body. Starting with a classic push-up variation, a very narrow push-up variation, a unilateral push-up variation where one arm is always extended while the other one is bending, and a dynamic circular push-up variation for maximum inclusion of our entire upper body musculature for control, strength, endurance, and flexibility, because that movement is going to open up your entire chest as a stretching bonus as well. We even have some biceps inclusion, which is not that usual when we are doing push exercises. All of those variations can be done with assistance as well. We've got the triceps dominant, the diamond push-up, assisted archers, assisted typewriters. So even if you do not have the strength to move on to the next level, you can take a level in between with the assisted variation. Of course, advancing that would move us into the dips category, going through an entire bend, long ranges of motion, and extending once more. And here you can add, once again, support exercises. Hold statically at the highest point, hold statically in the middle, hold hold the static in the lowest point and play around a little bit. And our second category is, of course, the pulling arm bendy exercises. The most important one you will learn in the beginning, and that is going to make a world's difference in how far you can advance with the other variations, would be the scapular pull-up. Starting in a dead hang, all we need to do is adduct our shoulder blades and depress them before we abduct and elevate. A single-sided or unilateral scapular pull-up. This time we have some upward rotation in our scapula as well before we switch positions. Now, you will already notice that this is basically the beginner movement for the archer pull-up. So this will already teach you how to activate the necessary muscles you need for more advanced stuff. Underhand biceps dominant chin up will be the easiest variation because this one is more biceps dominant and less back dominant. The wide grip overhand latissimus dominant pull-up requiring a little bit more strength, a little bit more control, and is going to take some time before you truly advance. The overhand archer pull-up with added chest and shoulder strength. One arm always fully extended, the other one bending, meaning we have a lot more unilateral pull, requiring more strength from one side. And the typewriter pull-up for maximum shoulder engagement. First to the middle, then complete extended to the lateral side, complete extension, lateral other side, back to the middle, and only then do we reverse all the way back down into a dead hang. And this is where our friend and helper comes in. All of those pull-ups can be done with assistance, and I would recommend you even do that because then you can work on your form way before you have the necessary strength. So go through the exercises with some assistance until you feel super safe in doing the movement pattern, and only then should you remove the assistance and go through those exercises all by yourself. When it comes to leg exercises, we're going to work on symmetrical exercises where we work both legs simultaneously at the exact same speed and with the exact same range of motion, like the classic squat, for instance. And here we want to start learning how to lower into a complete ass to grass deep squat without our feet raising. If you struggle with that, the easiest thing you can do is use an elevation for your heels only, because if you elevate your heels above your toes, it will be much easier to lower very deeply into a squat position without requiring the necessary mobility in your hips, knees, and ankle, as well as the necessary strength in your core and hip flexors. And over time, you can start reducing said elevation and start working with both feet flat on the ground. Asymmetrical or unilateral movement patterns, the cossack squat, one of my absolute favorites and probably my favorite leg exercise in general. So level number one is just learning how to bring your hips to knee height. Level number two is lowering down into a complete cossack squat, raising your heel and opening up into an external rotation in your left hip. So we have a nice stretch in our hamstrings. Level number three is lowering down once again, and this time we're going to bring our knee down, push our hips forward, lengthen our hip flexors and quads while strengthening our posterior chain in the legs. Because if we work like so, we have more quad dominance, and then we can add posterior chain strength as well. Lunges, because they can help you balance out all kinds of imbalances you have when it comes to leg strength, especially if you only do symmetrical exercises. And of course, if you want to advance this, you can not only increase your range of motion by starting in an elevation, but you can also start crossing over, for instance, behind your legs, adding a little bit more stretch in our hip flexors and quads, as well as a lot of ankle mobility going through ankle flexion and pushing our knee forward, which is going to help us in the long run with all kinds of leg exercises. The split squat, which have a lot of one-sided dominance to help us balance out our weaknesses, build a little bit more strength and add a lot more stretch to the other side. An exercise that is pretty much the pinnacle of athleticism. Not only can it help you build a lot of strength, a lot of control and a lot of endurance, but also pack on some real size onto your legs. And that is the standing box jump, meaning we are starting from a standing position using both of our feet simultaneously for a full jump. You can even extend your legs at the very top to add a little bit more quad engagement as well before you step that down carefully, just so you don't hurt yourself and move into the next repetition. But also do the same for single-sided standing box jumps, because that is going to increase the difficulty even more, help you put on a lot more strength, a lot more size, and requires a lot more control, because we also now have a lot of stabilization going on in our core, as well as our foot and ankle musculature, to keep us from falling over and to help us go through a safe single-sided jump. And then this is how you really start having fun with this exercise, which of course is increasing the range of motion of your jump until you can barely go through the entire thing, and then increase it a tiny bit more, because once you think that this is the end, probably there is still a tiny bit more left. And then you keep repeating this until you're fully out of energy, with the highest jumps building the most amount of strength, the most amount of control, the most amount of size, and helping us with insane amounts of explosivity throughout our entire leg musculature. Finally, for good measure, a complete body mobility drill that is gonna include every single muscle and joint in your entire body, so we can work on our flexibility as well, which is very important when it comes to calisthenics in general. Starting in a deep squat position, with step number 1 being internal hip rotations, combining internal with external hip rotations for a 90-90 squat seated switch, including complete spinal rotation by turning our body and moving our face all the way down to the ground. Now we have basically worked on our entire body mobility. Even though we haven't added like hamstring stretches, we are basically working all of our joints as well as all of our muscles. So if you add something like a standing posterior chain stretch, you have basically now hit every single muscle when it comes to flexibility as well. That said, if you like the video, and please come on, join us. We do stuff like that almost every single day. So until then, Captain Cairo, peace out.